Yeah, ECB, buddy. This is a crazy fucking story. That it seems to me no one in the regular world is talking about, which is unbelievable. Like, this is huge.
Well,
The implications here. Let's talk about the story first. You do the story, then we'll talk about the implications of it.
okay. The European Commission, they launched its Savings and Investments Unit. Union, the SIUs. It's a strategy. This was done in March 2025. So this came up but now through all this, they came up with this crazy idea or wonderful idea, depending on how you look at it. Because in Europe, the problem with that central bankers have over there is that Europeans have a lot of wealth that's locked up in bank deposits.
Does that sound familiar?
Well, these bank deposits,
preloaded stimulus locked up. Yeah, continue, please.
It's fuck all in interest they're generating. That's the reality. So people have money there, and it's generating the customer fuck all in interest. And the European Central Bank, their folks over there, believe that this money could be potentially unlocked as a way for companies in Europe to grow their business and do innovation. And they've come up with this European savings standard. And it is a way for people in the EU, they could get access to saving products with potential tax incentives. What does this mean? Well, in Canada, we kind of had the same thing. So I'll give you an example. We have the TFSA. Pierre Poilievre came out not too long ago during the election. He said, we will increase how much you could put in a tax-free savings account as long as be an extra $5,000 per year, as long as you're investing in Canadian companies.
Pre-selected Canadian companies. Not ones that you think are Canadian. We will tell you which ones you can use. Yep.
So that's essentially what they want to do here. They want to allow people to invest in companies, European companies, and through that, they're going to get tax savings, some potential tax savings. Interesting. Do you want to talk about it? I know your thoughts. I mean, go ahead. What can I say about this? Like, what the fuck is this?
It's bullshit, is what it is. This is a bail-in. It's a soft bail-in. Francis said that. I totally agree. I think I tweeted it too. It's a soft bail-in. The idea that the government is going to tell you through incentives where you can invest and where you cannot invest. I'm just going to read right from the position paper. I'm going to put the position paper as a link in the chat. You can look at it if you haven't already. This will blow your fucking mind. Combining selection criteria enables pursuit of EU objectives is the main headline here. And I'll read from that. Balancing these objectives requires, actually, I should go further up than this just to really get serious here. Here's the abstract, let's say at the top of the article. There is an urgent need to channel retail savings into European capital markets in order to develop those markets and finance EU priorities. In this edition of the ECB blog, we show that an EU savings standard could increase retail participation in the capital markets, benefiting savers, boosting investment in EU companies, and supporting strategic priorities. Can I just say, anything that benefits savers would already be done by savers, okay? The reason nobody wants to invest in EU companies is because everyone in the European Union is a fucking retard, okay? Every podcast, Bitcoin, energy, equities, politics, everyone says the same thing. These people are retarded, okay? They're not to be trusted. They're not to be aligned with. They've basically committed seppuku on every single possible front, whether it's immigration or coal or nuclear or elections. They ban parties that are to the right of center, not even far to the right, but to the right of center, under the guise of fascism and dictatorship and political fairness. These people are fucking morons. All of them over there. There's not a single high-quality European country left. I will say Poland's nice. Hungary also nice. Okay, sorry, Trip. You're right. You're right about that. In the chat, making a point. The position paper outlines a scenario where instead of allowing people to invest in the Europe or in the US markets and sort of ex-EU markets, they force everyone to invest 20% in European stocks. What does this do? It does a bunch of things that, by the way, should be so fucking obvious to anyone with half a brain that this is immediately laughed out of the room. But since these people are retarded, like I said, instead they write a position paper, and this guy probably makes, I don't know, this goof troop, Elena Banu, Johan Everard, Daniel Jonas Schmidt, and Michael Wiedau, okay? The four stooges here probably make a combined 1 million euros per year writing this kind of fucking nonsense. When you force investment into a capital market, what you do is you eliminate the need for efficiency. And what do I mean by that? The reason that people invest in Microsoft and Apple and Google is because they are titans of innovation. Google has every bit of your search data. When you go to Google, it's to do everything from look at your emails to find out how long you should hit an 8-iron. Okay, everything Google has on you is by your own volition. They don't force you to do it. America does not force you to invest there, et cetera, et cetera. When you use Microsoft, it's because your professional life revolves around the MS Teams suite of services, okay? It's because your computer runs Windows. No one's forcing you to use that. Your company is not forcing you to invest in that. What you see is the best product winning out, okay? Same thing with Apple. When you go to Apple, people use the iPhone because it's simple. It might not be the most secure. It might not be everyone's favorite, but it just works. Whether you're 10 or 70, when you open an iPhone, the home screen is inviting, the GUI is intuitive, and the product excels in multiple different environments as far as what the user expects. The reason these companies have these products, these services that are so sharp is because they are competing with each other. You can put your money anywhere, but you choose to put it in these companies when you buy equities and when you buy products. When you force investors, and you know, the commie retards out there will say, well, you're not being forced. There's just a new incentive that's presenting itself to allow you to benefit from investing in new companies in a way that you wouldn't before. Don't be stupid. This is forced investment. Because if you don't get the tax incentives for investing in companies that are more successful, you have no choice but to invest in companies that are less successful. And they will have nominal success because of this forced investment without real success, which will in time devalue the currency that those successes are denominated in and devalue the products that those successes are based on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's not that hard. The idea that you're going to force people into these investments at a 20% clip is insane. Polyev tried to pitch the same thing here, you know, expanding the TFSA limit to $12,000 and demanding that almost half of it go into pre-selected Canadian basket of equities. And now these guys are doing the same thing. This is what it looks like when capital markets die. Europe is not a place that any sane person should be parking money. Look at what's going on in Europe, okay? You can pick any number of different social, political, economic fault lines. And no matter where you look, there's retards making policy, retards formulating responses, and retards telling you that it's not the fault of the government. It is the fault of the government. It is the fault of the policy. And it is the fault of these things failing together at the same time over and over and over again. European Union politics has crushed competition at every turn, not just in technology, not just in energy, but even in political rivalries. It's all they know how to do. If someone does it better than them, they legislate them out of business. You see this all the time. All the time. This is no different. No one should be investing in European Union markets. No one should be holding.
So you see,
no one should be holding euros. No one should be investing in these markets. No one should be fucking considering moving there for sure. And the countries that are outside of the Eurozone and have been, you know, rivals and staunch opponents of these policies, Poland, Hungary, and other places, should continue to bear those standards. Because
so
if they
you
don't,
see, there's
this is where things will go.
You see, there's no reason anybody would want to do this. Like, there has to be some reason why somebody would want to invest, right?
Yeah.
I'll be honest, it's hard for me to wrap my head around it. but I'm sure there's going to be a reason, right? I can't see it directly. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. I don't know.
For what?
But
Reason for
I
what?
don't know. I mean, the only comparison I could use is like a TFSA here in Canada.
They're going to do.
Right?
They're going to try and do it here too. 100%. They're going to try and do it here.
But
I
even
totally
right
agree.
now,
they're going to
you
do
can't
it with
day
the
trade.
pension. The pension is the thing here that's going to have to invest in Canadian companies.
The pension is something else. That the TFSA is a tax incentive.
Yeah.
They're giving somebody a carrot to dangle. And do you add to your TFSA or do you not do anything? Or
I still add to it.
So then you're a good candidate to ask the question, why would anybody use this? And because why do you use your TFSA?
Okay, so I'll give you.
You can't day trade in your TFSA. There's limitations in that.
Yeah,
you can't do
volume,
the private equity is quite.
Can't do
like,
PE,
there are some limitations.
So let me give you the argument that I'm actually like engaged in right now with my parents, my in-laws.
Because I'll be honest, there's going to be legitimate reasons. I just can't see it because I live in a bubble of myself. But somebody like you could provide good rationale for
I actually think
European thing. I might work for them. I don't know.
I think you're right about the TFSA going that direction here. I'll give you an example of what I'm not doing and an argument that I have with my parents, my in-laws, honestly, almost every week at this point. My daughter is 7 months old-ish, and my dad is leading the charge among the parents and in-laws to start a RESP.
RESP,
yeah, for my daughter. Did I tell you this already? I might have told you this offline.
This is very common.
And I keep telling him that I think it's retarded to do that. I tell him that for a few reasons. I sent him this EU story, obviously. The most obvious, non-tinfoil hat reasons, very simple. Education is changing all the time. And the idea that you're going to lock up money in an investing account that's only going to be allowed to be used and backed by the incentives that you agreed to 20 years earlier, basically, let's call it, 18 or 20 years earlier, is if the government agrees that the education you want to pursue at that time falls into the basket of educational resources that they support. I think that that's obviously an issue and obviously dicey. So not going to do that. The tinfoil hat side says that they're going to force those investments to be in Canadian companies at some percentage over the course of the next 18 years. And I think that that's like an obvious weakness in these portfolio allotments. And people are not really thinking about it because they don't pay attention. No one's reading ECB position papers like you and me. They have better shit to do. But the idea that you would park money in an account it's a 20-year lockup is what it is.
Our RSP is even
and
worse.
It is worse. And like the RESP is like particularly bad because it's your child's well-being. At least if you fuck up your own well-being, you're the moron, you pay the price.
No.
But if you fuck up your child's well-being through an RESP disaster because you locked up the money for 20 years and the government says, yeah, by the way, you can only go to like McMaster, Western, Laurier, Guelph, and they're teaching underwater basket weaving or African dance studies, shit that doesn't give you any career opportunities, which, by the way, is a huge problem everywhere. The ROI on university degrees is zero across the board because universities get their loans. Gets their loans funded by the government, backed by the government, basically through stuff like
there's some
OEAP,
degrees
et cetera,
that have value.
Very few compared to what is on offer at these places. But the loan availability doesn't change between diplomas. That's the problem.
So the 100% but let's go back to the TFSA thing. You're adding to it. And I'm going to be honest here. For mine has been slowly being depleted. I'm getting to a point it's going to be zero in the not too distant future. And I'm going to be so happy for that. But see, I live, like I say, in my bubble. What works for me doesn't work for you, Joey. Doesn't work for that person or that person.
Right.
But you're adding to yours, and you have a particular reason why you're adding to it.
Yeah, I'll talk.
I would like to know why.
I'll give you mine. For example, so I'll give you two or three reasons here. One, if you've been listening to the show for a long time, you'll know that we talked about how I was going to slowly ease out of my TFSA once we bought this house where we are now. Turns out that we want to do a bunch of stuff to the house, and so you have to play this stupid fiat game. Understanding that inflation is going to drive the value of these equities up faster than your savings will ever keep up with. And so if you want to, for example, we just did a bathroom upstairs. That's 15 grand. You know, you need 15 grand. What's the best way to get it? Well, for me, it was MSTR. You know, you take a bunch of money, park it in MSTR for a year, it triples and you get 15 grand. Now I think it's these other shitcoin treasury companies or whatever that everyone is talking about, Semler and all this other garbage. I don't buy any of this shit, you know, about Bitcoin torque and Bitcoin yield. I don't care. I think it's a nonsense argument. But am I going to let the money get away when I have a kitchen to do, when I want to do Invisalign, when I want to pay for Montessori? You know, I got to take advantage of those things. But if I'm forced to put that money into Canadian companies, the incentive disappears because those companies don't grow. I don't care about CN Rail's dividend. I don't care about Bell Media's, you know, registration numbers. I don't care. What I care about is, can I triple this money in a year? If I can triple it in a year, I'm in. But if I'm not tripling in a year, I'm out.
There's enough evidence out there to say why one would never want to do the TFSA game.
I don't know about that. I don't know.
If
you're in my shoes, like, why would you not? You know, you have these expenses that are coming up. It's tax free.
And I get it.
Basically a guarantee. You know, you kind of have an idea of where the market's going.
It's the point of view where you're coming from. And see, like for mine, I could say, and again, I live in my bubble. I have no reason why I'd want to, because I have seen what happens when people get shut out from their wealth. Yeah. And I don't want to be in a position where my wealth is shut out for whatever reason.
Always a risk.
I want to have total control over this, and I'm paying a price for that because I believe I could make more wealth by playing a TFSA game, but I'm choosing not to by playing it safe, just buying corn and leaving it like that. So I'm leaving money on the table by doing my strategy, but the reality is I have total control over everything.
Yeah.
So there's a level of risk. Risk may be very, very small, but I don't want to risk anything at this particular moment.
Agreed.
And
yeah, there's always
I think
risk.
there's enough evidence to show that one wouldn't want to. You know, 3 years ago, what happened in Ottawa, that, you know, if somebody looks at that and says, you know what, I'm still going to play the fucking game, the fiat game. I don't know, man. So it's nice that you have a bathroom, but I don't know. There's more to it. And for me, it's just, I'm done with it. And the integrity I feel about not putting anything into that, I feel good.
You and me are at different stages of life. You know, when you started buying Bitcoin 10 years ago.
No, I did not 10 years ago.
Eight years ago.
The same as you. 2017.
So when you started buying Bitcoin 8 years ago, were you still putting in your TFSA?
Heck yeah. And I was, you know, when the turning point was for me?
COVID.
Shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring it up, but I just mentioned the example just a moment ago. That is, for me, it was a turning point in a number of different things. It was, I changed my mentality where things are going to go in the future, and I changed where I'm going to be putting my money moving forward. And at that particular moment, it was a turning point for me. And a lot of people should look at that and say, I'm not trying to preach to you, Joey. I'm just trying to say,
I know. We're in different positions, and I appreciate that the risk exists for sure.
Yeah.
Pretending it doesn't exist is the wrong way to handle this.
If somebody wants to go 100% into anything, like if it's going to be fucking bonds, I don't give a rat's ass. Do whatever you think is best for you. I don't care. I say what works best for me. It's not a one size fits all approach, but for me, I know what works. And try figuring out for you. Not pointing to you. I'm talking to everybody else, Joey. It works for you because that way, at least you understand. Do your research, do whatever, and then just fucking follow suit. But understand there's a risk, and even holding your own Bitcoin, there's fucking risk. You lose your keys, that's it. It's gone. Forget it. Nobody's gonna fix. So everything comes with a level of risk. What do you want to tolerate? What do you want to risk?
And for how long?
Yeah. And that TFSA stuff, like I look at it and I'm thankful I haven't.
It's a lot shorter term for me now. Yeah, it's a lot shorter term for me now than it was a few years ago, for sure.
And I hope everybody that plays this game, I honestly hope you make bank. I don't want to see anybody get wrecked. And I hope nobody gets wrecked, because if somebody does, we're in a really bad place. Because if they go to what I'm talking about, where you have no access to your capital, that's terrible. Like then we're the situation of the country is just in shambles. I hope we don't get there, but there's always the potential that is there. And, you know, they did it to people that, there are people that are protesting in Toronto frequently. Nothing happens. But then some other guys do it in Ottawa, and then they get fucking nailed. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe that there's a reason for that. Okay, but the fact they did that shows that they could do a lot. And if they could do a lot, I don't want to be the receiving end of that. I want to have some flexibility. I want to be mobile. I want to have control over my destiny. I don't want to have somebody else and beg for my money. So many times you see people go to the bank, ask for cash.
Steady. Yep.
And they don't get it, or you have to go through this. You fucking earned it, man. You know, when you go to work, everybody goes to work. Unless you're getting paid for cash, that money has to get deposited in a bank, right? And this is the way it works. So you have to go to the bank and get it out. And you're begging them, please, could I have access to the money that I work for? Fuck, the banks, they should be like giving it to you because you're giving it to them and they're investing it. They're increasing their wealth. So if you want it back, they should, here you go. It's yours. Thank you for letting me increase my wealth. Here's your money back. But you have to give them all these reasons why. And now $10,000 transactions in Canada, I mean, potentially could be something that could land you in hot water. It's cash, right? Like, does it really matter if I pay something $11,000 in cash or if it's going to be using a credit card? Does it really make a difference? It's all legal tender, in my opinion.
Mhm.
But the powers that be realize or come to a conclusion, 11,000 is just, you can't spend that. That's in cash. Fuck, I don't want to be in that situation. Like, I'd rather just fuck it.
Different strokes for
Bitcoin.
different folks, but yeah, I'm not
More
necessarily
Bitcoin.
against. Yeah, I'm not against that position.
So this whole European thing, like I could see it. For some people, they might look at it and say, "Yeah, there's enough of a carrot. I'm going to take advantage of it." You know, all the more power to you if you want to do it. And I hope you make well. I hope investing in Volkswagen and investing in where the fuck it is you're investing in works out for you in the end. Just like for people that are investing in these Semlers and whatever, I hope it works out for you in the end.
If you invested in Jaguar over the last little while, you'd be. I don't know if you saw this, but Jaguar's sales down 97.5% during the rebrand from 1,961 vehicles the year before to 49 in 2025.
Wow. So what was it? It was a 1 year difference, or is it?
Yeah, they did
years?
like the rebrand thing with like the weird LGBT stuff. Remember, there's like a runway commercial on Twitter that got fucking nuked from every angle. Just a completely backwards, detached from reality rebrand attempt, probably from some DEI hire, if I had to guess. Disaster, but yeah, completely nuked. Martin Pelletier is talking about it on Twitter. It's hilarious. Yeah, if you had done that, I guess you'd be upset about it. But
doesn't an Indian company own Jaguar? Didn't they buy it from Ford?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't seen a lot of. I almost never see Jaguars around. Do you? See a lot of Mercedes, a lot of Beamers, a lot of Volvos, a lot of like. Not that I would call those cars exotic, but they're less.
They're higher end.
Yeah.
Like they're not a Corolla or a Civic or something, which fuck, you know, a Civic these days, brand new, I think it's like 30 grand, 40
Civics
grand.
are,
I don't know.
Civics are great cars. They're great cars.
They are, but man, oh man, like the price of them has gone up. I mean, in Canadian dollars.
Ain't nothing free, buddy. Ain't nothing free.
Yeah.
You want to do one or two more stories here, and then.
Well, I want to talk about, there's this really interesting story that happened. Let's continue with Europe.
Anytime you lead with a really interesting story happened, I know for sure I'm in for a treat.
No, I like this. It was a soccer or football team out of Switzerland, depending on which way you're looking at it. It's the Swiss national women's
I did see this story.
Football team. And they wanted to practice. So they played 3 different games or matches. And one of them was against a team called FC Luzern. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Either way, this is the under 15 boys team from this football team. So under 15. So did some research. This means that they're boys ages between 13 and 15. They can still be 15 as long as they're able to, they don't turn 16 before the end of this year. So they're playing the women's national team, played this team of 13 to 15-year-old boys. They lost to the boys 7-1. The 23rd ranked world women's team lost to kids that are in grade 7, 8, and 9. 7-1, right? I tried
man.
to look at the names of the kids on the under 15 squad. I came up blank. I could not find anything about that. But this goes to show you the disparity between the two levels of game. Apparently, they play really fast, even at the 13 to 15-year-old level,
Yeah.
compared to the 23rd ranked world team. Yeah, there you go. I found it to be very interesting, and yeah, maybe they could transition these kids and
I'm gonna
dominate.
I'll tell you a story. I don't know if I've ever said this on the show before, but I've had a few beers, so I'll say it tonight.
Oh no!
When I was
fucking
when I was a kid, the street that I lived on had 8 boys that we all played sports together all the time. We ranged in age. I was the oldest, and there's a few other guys my age, and then my brother was a couple years younger, and then the youngest of the crew was 3 years younger than me. So I was born in '87, and the youngest was born in 1990. When I was in grade 10, okay, I was a really good basketball player. Like, I played high as level basketball as you can play in Ontario at that time anyway. We went to tournaments in Florida, Disney World, other places, and I got, a million medals, a million trophies, all kinds of shit hanging somewhere in my dad's place. We went one Christmas break when I was in grade 10 with the kids from the street, 8 of us in total, okay? I was the only one playing rep basketball. My brother was really good too, but he was a couple years younger than me, so he was like in grade 8 or grade 9 at the time. We went, the 8 of us, to a local gym, I won't say what gym, and played against a local college women's team, basketball. I won't say what college. 8 of us against their full squad. And we beat the fucking piss out of them for 2 hours. Hammered them. I remember saying to my dad after that I couldn't believe we won that game. And he didn't really say much about it. I don't think it really occurred to him that what I was thinking was like, how the fuck did we beat a college women's team? But in retrospect, the difference between a 14, 15-year-old boy and a 20-year-old girl is enormous. The speed, the physicality. Like, I remember I was the only person who could touch the rim in the gym, which was nuts at that time, just little things like that, right? And, one of my buddies who was playing hockey, he used to play for, I'll tell you what, it was he ended up playing for the Frontenacs, I think, Kingston Frontenacs, also played for Brock University later in life. He's a really good hockey player. He was on my street too. And I just remember thinking, like, in the third or fourth quarter of that game, we still had so much gas in the tank, and the girls were toast. They were completely out of gas, completely demoralized. Scoreboard was off. We had one referee. I think the college brought in one referee. And the only reason we got this game, by the way, is because one of the guys on my street, his uncle was the coach of the college women's team. And he had coached against me when I was in grade 8. He used to coach a local elementary school as well. So, I'm not surprised to hear that. What I am surprised by is the sort of lack of grace from the people who are constantly talking about how women should be paid the same as men to play sports. I mean, this is obviously not true. I have a daughter. You have a daughter. I'm not sexist in this way. I don't believe this is a sexist point of view or a sexist opinion. I think it's just a reality of biology that kids, if they're men, are significantly better at almost all sports than women, even if they're 10 years old, they're fully developed, child-rearing age, et cetera, et cetera. I would pick basically a team of 15-year-old boys against any WNBA team, and I think they'd probably win. I think I could probably have taken one of my HBA teams, a Hamilton House League, maybe a few years before COVID. I had a team that scored 100 points in a House League game. Those games are 32 minutes long, for people who are wondering. I think that team could beat a WNBA team, probably could do it pretty easily. And I don't think it's weird to say this anymore. Again, there's a lack of understanding from a lot of people that social media exposes these things and just makes them obvious and puts them front and center. So the idea that you're going to pretend that, women are as good at sports as men, even men that are 10 or 12 years younger, is just completely insane. I would love to see the highlights. Where are the highlights of that game?
No,
I
there was
think
no
that's
cameras.
Yeah,
No
of
cameras
course,
around.
of course,
No, nothing.
of
It was
course,
just,
of course. Not a surprise. You know, that tells you everything you need to know about the match itself. But not a shock, man. Not a shock at all.
Now we'll do the last story. We got to raise our elbows for these ones here.
Digital service tax. Digital service tax.
We have that and the $1 billion federal bank loan to the BC Ferries, Chinese-made ships. Those elbows, look, they're fucking up, baby. Just fucking protecting myself. Nobody's gonna come in here to the fortress. And there we go.
Do you think the digital service taxes thing is an important story? We talked about this a lot in Access of Easy, by the way, and we've talked about it, I think, in passing on this show, but I'm not 100% sure. Michael Geist is a guy you could follow for this, and there are others as well in the legal space. But
where it's important is, I believe, and somebody could correct me, this was talked about, it was never going to change. It's always going to remain. They
wanted, so John in the chat is making a point that I think the thing that people don't realize is that they tried to do this retroactively and collect a $2 billion tab today. Was that the plan, to collect
June 30th? Yeah.
Like, the US is not paying you $2 billion for anything. They're never going to do that. We have no cards. We have no leverage. And this is how negotiations look when you have no cards or no leverage. You bend the knee. You try to take it.
Like I say,
last minute.
It went from one extreme to another. It went from like, it's not going to change. It's not off the table. And now somebody said, we're not going to make any deals as long as this thing's gone. Oh, it's gone. Fuck it. See you later. So really, like, the optics look really bad. I don't know which looks worse, terrible. That or the BC Ferries. Or
the ferries is a good story too, right? The province wouldn't give any money to. This is one I haven't really paid that much attention to.
There was no Canadian bidders, by the way.
Right.
No Canadian companies
that's what
bidded.
they say, but the reason there weren't bidders is because there's no sort of money in that contract. Do I have that right?
I don't know.
So they ended up buying like a cheap Chinese ship. That's what ended up happening.
Freeland was expressing great disappointment for this to the ferry operators over the purchase.
That's good. To the ferry operators,
I guess so.
Are they really bidding on the RFPs? I don't know. I doubt it.
The last one was really, really quick. That street that changed names in Vancouver. Looks like the people living there are having some difficulties with.
You're right on the curve. All roads lead to land. All roads lead to land.
So they have troubles paying or changing their credit card information or their banking stuff because the way that it's set up, it's not accepted in the fields. So yeah, I feel bad for them. Their mortgage payments, they're not going to go through. Credit card payments are not going to go through. And if they want to collect, they got to go find. Could you imagine, like, if living on a street? I want to take a look at in the next little while to see what happens comparatively, the price of the homes there versus something like in that neighborhood, like very, very close, and see if the homes over there, like,
good question. Is
what's
the hassle worth, right?
I want to see like how this trends over a little bit of time, and they just, it seems like there was an action that was done without thinking it through, right? They didn't think, like, what happens to the people living there that has to pay their bills. Well,
good way to put it. Friend of the show, Ken Sim, I thought gave a less than enthusiastic supporting speech about this. So make of that what you will, listener, viewer. Let's get out of here. Come back on Wednesday. Tristan, Pablo, Daniela, I don't know, somebody will be here to talk about the Learning Bitcoin conference, and hope to see you then. Until Wednesday, have a couple of beers, take care of yourselves, and happy Canada Day.
Happy Canada Day.